everyone, I'm Ava, and today I'm going to tell you about 5 American things that I now find weird after living in the Netherlands. I moved to the Netherlands sometimes last year, and I visited the US back early March, right before the coronavirus crisis hit. And although that was kind of the main thing that I noticed, I also noticed the reverse culture shock that I was having during my trip. And this was when I was visiting my hometown of New York and also in Philadelphia, where I had lived for many years before moving to the Netherlands. Thing number 1 that was really surprising to me when I went back to the US was something that I noticed right at the airport. And those were how freaking tiny the public bathroom stalls are. So this is what an American public bathroom stall looks like. Now, if you are European, and especially if you're Dutch, you're probably noticing that there isn't a lot of privacy in these bathroom stalls. The doors are really, really tiny. And I can tell you what I did when I went back to the US to use the bathroom. I walked into the public bathroom and I started looking underneath the stalls to see if anyone was using them. Because that is a really easy thing that you can do when there is so much space for you to kind of get into someone's business. And that's what I did. Also, I am not alone. This is what people do when they try and figure out whether a bathroom stall is free or not, just because there's just so much room for you to go in and take a look. Sometimes you don't even need to bend down and trouble yourself. You could just look through the slits in the doors. They're wide enough for you to see what's going on in there. Also, forget about having some kind of quiet while you're trying to, very privately do your private things. The person next to you can hear everything, really everything. And I'm not just talking about, there's a lot of echo in the bathroom stalls. No, you can hear everything just because you could, if you wanted, you could throw things to the person next to you from underneath because there's so much space. If you're asking yourself, why is it like that in the US? Then I'm here to tell you that that's a really great question that nor I think very many normal people can have an answer to. It's just how things are. I bet it's one of those things that if I Googled, I would be able to find out. Culture shock number 2 was just how, honestly, gross and dirty everything was. I really have to mention here, I loved living in the US, and there are reasons to hate the US right now, but I really liked living there. I'm American. I don't hate where I'm from. But when I lived in the US, I really thought that certain neighborhoods in certain places were quite charming, had a certain type of beauty to them. And I'm talking about 2 places in particular. So New York and Philadelphia. Especially Philadelphia. So Americans often think of Philadelphia as an ugly city. I never thought that. It's an old city, relatively old city in the US. And there's some cute townhouses. Or so I thought. When I went back in March, I was really, really surprised to find out that these really cute townhouses were all of a sudden, they looked worn, old, and dilapidated to me, because I'm just so used to how really well kept everything is in the Netherlands. So cities like Amsterdam and Utrecht are just so beautiful, and I think that's why you pay high taxes here, so that the government can maintain these buildings, and people who live in the buildings will pay lots of money to maintain them. But in the US, that's just not the case. Everything is just old looking in not a nice way. And I was really surprised because when I was in it, I didn't notice it as much. I had the same to say for the streets in the US. The streets were completely covered in litter. Okay, I've also lived in Mumbai for many years, so compared to that, it's not completely covered in litter. But okay, there's a lot of trash everywhere. It's dusty, and again, just the whole grungy, worn down look. Hey, grunge was cool in the 90s. This is 2020. Maybe we can do something about that. I don't know. I went back and I thought, well, I'm glad to be living in the Netherlands, because I hate to admit this, but a little bit superficial. So I walked around and was like, this is not the city I thought I lived in. And of course, there are exceptions in the US. I also lived in Washington, D.C. for 2 years, and oh my God, can I tell you, D.C. is a wonderful, beautiful city. And people say that's because it's more European. So go figure. Another thing I will say in terms of how things look, I thought that the parks in the US looked completely different from what I remembered, and especially when I compare it to the parks in the Netherlands. So I love going to a park in the Netherlands. I didn't do that as much back in the US. And the parks in the US are not pretty. I was surprised at how not pretty they were, because in my memory, I had fond memories of them. I thought they were beautiful. But yeah, they don't have the cute little ponds like you would in Utrecht in Wilhelmina Park, for instance, or in Amsterdam in het Vondelpark or het Servati Park. So yeah, it was something that I definitely noticed. Thing number 3 that was a total shock to me was the breakfast in the US for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, oh my God, the sugary snacks. I forgot that in the mornings, Americans like to eat lots and lots of cereal and on occasion Pop-Tarts. I think those are my 2 main areas of complaint, if you will, for American breakfasts. I don't understand who thought a Pop-Tart is a treat. It's candy. I don't understand how it became breakfast at some point. And I know Dutch people like to eat hagelslag for breakfast, those chocolate sprinkles. But at the same time, there is a lot of yogurt and muesli, which is a healthier and grosser version of granola going on here in the Netherlands. So very health focused, and also, you know, some cheese and hagelslag, absolutely. But yeah, Pop-Tarts and cereal, and oh my God, the cereal aisles. I totally forgot how obsessed we were with that. And oats in the US, I mean, we have these prepackaged oats that are supposed to be healthy. If you look at them, they're filled with sugar. So that was kind of really surprising to me, because I had gotten used to a certain type of breakfast here in the Netherlands already. And the second thing about breakfast in the US is when I would go out to eat breakfast, of course, I was surprised by the large portions of food. For brunch, I have a favorite brunch place in the US, like any American my age does, I'm assuming. So I went to my favorite brunch place in the US, and I was not able to finish my food. That has never happened to me. I love food. I love eating all my food because I paid for it. And sure, you can take it home, but it's never going to be as good as it was when you got it at the brunch place. So I ordered, French toast, eggs. It was impossible. The plates are this big. No joke. Food piling all over. So I was totally surprised at how big they were in reality. In my memory, it was something that I could just finish in one sitting. I let myself down. Couldn't do it. Couldn't finish it. Thing number 4. Ooh, so this is worse in New York than in very many places in the US. And that is that people are so freaking grumpy. And in New York, we are the grumpiest. Philadelphia is also a pretty grumpy city. This is like one of those things that you really notice in the airport, and more so when you leave as opposed to when you're coming in. But it's insecurity when you're going to an airport at JFK. This is like 100% of the time you will experience this if you're at an airport at JFK and you're in departures. If you're going through security, you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna be yelling at you about all the rules. They'll yell at you, take your shoes off. Why don't you take your shoes off? Ma'am, please take your shoes off. And honestly, I was so used to this that I didn't even notice when I would go with friends who were European and they would tell me, oh my God, this was terrible. Like, did you see how rude people were? And I was like, what? They're just doing their jobs. That and all of this was before I had ever been to Schiphol Airport. Oh my gosh, Schiphol is just amazing. I was really surprised that people were happy. People were cracking jokes. And people were not upset when it took me a while to get my laptop out. They just took that as a chance to, make conversation with me. Hey, where are you from? Where are you going? I didn't know what was going on. That was way too friendly for me. I didn't know how to handle it. And this is not just airports. So in the US, you will experience this at like clothing stores. That was another place where I honestly had culture shock and then reverse culture shock. When I moved to the Netherlands, I was surprised that people would talk to you and were really friendly in clothing stores. In the US, it's either fake friendly or they just leave you alone and they're super grumpy and upset that you're in the store. Yeah. And finally, number 5, the supermarket prices in the US. Oh my God. I mean, this is again one of those things that I had culture shock, positive culture shock for, and then I went back and reverse culture shock. So culture shock again, totally crazy. Supermarket prices in the US are insane. In the Netherlands, everything is cheap. So I was so excited when I moved here. But when I went back, I remembered how not cheap it was. So to give you some examples of what I'm talking about here, I'm going to be generalizing, but this will give you an idea of how insane supermarket prices in the US are. They are Scandinavia prices. So in the Netherlands, you could buy a normal tub of yogurt for somewhere between 1 and 2 euros, maybe 3 if you're buying the really fancy kind. But a similar tub of yogurt in the US would be anywhere between $3 to $6+. That's more than double. I'm really not kidding here. Another example, the cheese. One of the reasons why I moved to the Netherlands, it's not because I hated the US, it's because I love the cheese so darn much here in the Netherlands. And it's actually affordable. So if you were to buy this, like a small thing of cheese, of any kind of cheese, like brie, whatever, it would be between 1 and 2 euros, maybe like 2 something. And of course, it can be a bit more expensive, but a cheese like that, like a thing of goat cheese or brie in the US would be like $4 or $5, and then it's a good deal. I was used to that. So when I moved to the Netherlands, I thought, man, this is great. I could just buy all the cheese that I want, and I did, and I still do. And when I went back to the US, I was like, well, this is my no cheese holiday, because I am not paying $3.99 for this tiny log of goat cheese that I don't even think is that great. Another example, I have to say this because Dutch people love their bread. So in the US, first of all, the bread sucks in comparison. Not the fresh bread from bakeries, of course, but in the supermarket, the bread sucks. Now you can get a loaf of bread in the Netherlands for like €1 to 2 something. In the US, no. It starts at 2 something. If you want something halfway decent, you're gonna be paying $4 for a very normal loaf of bread. You want something that actually tastes great, then you're paying $5 to $6 for it. Like, I don't understand why that is. So those were my 5 things that I really got so used to in the Netherlands, because they are amazing and it's really easy to get used to awesome stuff. And those were the 5 things that I didn't think were so awesome back in the US. Now, if you guys have visited the US and you're Dutch, or you're from a different place, why didn't you let me know in the comments what stood out to you when you visited America?